Okay, so personality disorders. Personality disorders are characterized by rigid maladaptive traits that cause great distress or an inability to get along with other people. Okay, so everyone has personality, right? We talked about personality as an essential feature of the human experience in previous chapters. With personality disorders, the difference is that individuals who have personality disorders are very inflexible. They'll keep trying the same thing over and over and over again in every situation, even if it's not working. So let's say that you are compulsive to a certain extent. You're maybe very detail oriented. This can be a good thing, right? When you are, let's say, proofreading a paper, that can be a very, very good thing because you'll catch a lot of mistakes. However, it becomes rigid and maladaptive when your detail orientation becomes such a problem that you have to spend 3 hours sharpening all of your pencils before you sit down to actually start correcting your paper, okay? So these traits are very, very rigid, maladaptive, and they cause problems in relationships. The other thing about personality disorders is that the individuals who experience these disorders, they don't think that they have a problem. They're basically like, well, this is my personality, this is who I am. If you don't like it, there must be something wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with me. So in seeking treatment then, individuals with personality disorders are oftentimes referred by friends or family members. They're not going to come in, of their own volition and say, hey, I have a problem, please help me. Okay, so first, personality disorder. We have a case study here of Isaac, who demonstrates narcissistic personality disorder. So narcissistic PD, I want you to read this, and then we'll talk about the essential features. Okay, so with narcissistic personality disorder, this is based on the myth of Narcissus, who saw his reflection in the water and fell in love with himself. He was just that wonderful. So narcissistic personality disorder is characterized by an exaggerated sense of self-importance and self-absorption. You basically think that you are the greatest thing that has ever happened, and everyone else should recognize that. You can probably see how this makes it very difficult to get along with these people in real life. Think about, if you had to work with Isaac, or think about if you know someone who demonstrates narcissistic PD. Okay, antisocial personality disorder. Case study here of Ted Bundy. So I want you to read this here, right? And many serial killers can actually fall into this antisocial personality disorder category. Okay, so antisocial PD then, characterized by lifelong pattern of irresponsible antisocial behavior, particularly related to breaking laws, manipulating other people. So these people are not capable of having real relationships. They are basically in relationships to get something, to use the other person in some way. And then in using the other person, they don't feel any kind of guilt or compunction for what they have done. So you see that pretty clearly in Ted Bundy's quote there, that he feels sorry for anyone who experiences remorse for actions. Borderline personality disorder. Read this case study here about Sarah. So with borderline personality disorder, these individuals have a really hard time establishing a secure self-identity. So they don't really know who they are, and so they rely on their friends or other people around them to help them establish some kind of identity. They don't, however, really trust other people. They have this kind of shell of themselves, and they don't know who they are, and they have a really difficult time trusting that other people are not going to take advantage of them or use them in some way. A lot of times we also see very impulsive and self-destructive behavior with borderline. Impulsive behavior, things like using substances, eating disorders go comorbidly with borderline. Self-destructive behavior like cutting, skin mutilation, those kinds of things. Suicide attempts, very common as well. Difficulty in controlling anger and other emotions. So you see this demonstrated in the case study. Individuals with borderline can go from seeming like they're nice, sweet people to extreme rage in a matter of seconds, and then these very volatile personal relationships. So think about, if you were Peter in that case study, would you want to continue having a relationship with this woman, Sarah? Probably not. So very, very unstable, tumultuous personal relationships. Okay, so substance use disorders. This is new to the DSM-5. In the previous DSM, the one that's outlined in your book, they talk about substance abuse and substance dependence. We've combined those two categories in the new DSM, so now it's just one category of substance use, and we will rate your severity: mild, moderate, and extreme or severe in terms of your use of substance. So there are some hallmark features of problems with substances. So first we have tolerance. Tolerance means that you need more and more and more of a substance in order to feel the same effects. So you kind of build up an immunity to the substance over time. So maybe when you first started drinking, you could get pretty buzzed off of 1 or 2 drinks. And now that you've been drinking for a while, it takes you, 8 beers to get to that same effect. Withdrawal. So withdrawal symptoms are the unpleasant side effects that happen when you stop using the substance. So, for example, with alcohol, people who have severe problems with alcohol can actually die from withdrawal from alcohol. They might experience what's called the delirium tremens or the DTs, seizures, as a result of stopping to use the substance. With things like heroin, they experience extreme nausea, perhaps vomiting, dizziness when they stop using that particular substance. Failure to meet obligations. So your use of a substance impedes perhaps your ability to hold down a job, to function within your home environment. This can be, with your kids, with your significant other, and those relationships might get in the way of you getting your schoolwork done. Use despite persistent or recurrent social problems. So even though you are having difficulties, showing up for work on time, getting your schoolwork done, you still continue to use the substance. And then also, you might be using these in a physically hazardous situation. So, for example, you drink 10 beers and then you go drive around. Clearly, drunk driving, a physically hazardous situation. So that's substance use disorders.